still unsigned Foz would make for a competitive team. If you haven't been paying much attention to the Major League Baseball offseason since mid-December, when the Yankees traded for Giancarlo Stanton and the Angels signed prized Japanese two-way free agent Shohei Ohtani, you haven't missed much. The free agent market in general has been slow enough to arouse suspicion and call under scrutiny concessions the MLB Players Association made in the league's most recent collective bargaining agreement. More than half the players on USA Today Sports list of the top 73 free agents available this offseason, including the top 4 on the list and 8 of the top 11, remain unsigned with spring training camps set to open next week. There's been some talk that the sports legions of free agents could organize their own spring training camp to prepare for the season under the assumption they will eventually find teams. Jerry Crasnick examined the idea, an interesting feature for ESPN.com that looks back on a similar arrangement established in Homeland, Florida during baseball's 1994-95 labor stoppage. Around this time 2 years ago in this space, I compared a team comprised of unsigned free agents to the Atlanta Braves, then at the outset of a rebuilding phase. Though the Braves have since progressed, there's almost no doubt that this year's unsigned free agent crop could best a bunch of MLB's rebuilding clubs over the course of a 162-game season, especially presumed 2018 bottom dwellers like the Tigers, Padres and the woebegone Marlins. This year, if you squint, you can see the makings of a full-blown, competitive, 25-man MLB roster lingering in free agency. If no club were to sign any free agents before next week and a lot of them elect to go to their own spring training camp somewhere, and then MLB put its foot down and was all, you know what? No. We're contracting the Marlins as we knew them, you guys can be the Marlins now. And the players partnered with a smart front office apartment to optimize the talent available in their rogue camp. Here's how that team would look. It seems especially baffling that Jonathan Lucroy remains a free agent, since he'd represent a pretty obvious upgrade behind the plate for a bunch of teams. In 2017, Lucroy endured his worst offensive season since his rookie year and did not replicate his once impressive pitch framing numbers. But even in his diminished form he hit about as well as a league-average backstop. The Washington Nationals, meanwhile, have one more year before Bryce Harper and Daniel Murphy hit free agency and added no new catchers after getting the worst production in the league from the spot in 2017. There's a fairly steep drop-off from Lucroy to the next best catching free agent. But Lucroy's strong finish to 2017 combined with the back of his baseball card suggests he'll be at least a league-average starting catcher in 2018. Team free agent is in trouble if Lucroy gets hurt, as glove-first veterans Carlos Ruiz and A.J. Ellis are probably its best backup options, and neither of those guys should really be playing every day at this point. Dan Hamilton, USA Today Sports. Their strength at the corners, as a pair of Royals heroes, stand as the two best position players left on the market. Eric Hosmer can be a divisive player, and his inability to secure an 8-year deal this offseason might not seem terribly surprising in a vacuum, as he's limited to first base and does not post the type of power numbers typically associated with the position. But both Hosmer and fellow Kansas City favorite Mike Moustakas are still in their 20s and coming off a season that saw their offensive production surge. The big problem with this club is that there are no true everyday shortstops left unsigned. Team free agents' best option is probably shoehorning utility man Eduardo Nunez into the role, and it's probably going to have to carry Darwin Barney as a backup infielder for defense, leaving better offensive players off the roster. Neil Walker, a steadily above-average player whenever he's healthy, seems the obvious call at second base. Nunez's value is mitigated some by neglecting his versatility, but his contributions in the batter's box and on the base paths could make up for deficiencies at shortstop. Todd Frazier, backing up first and third and maybe seeing some time in an outfield corner against lefties. You have to understand that every single one of these dudes is all in for team free agent and will do whatever is asked of them to the best of their ability, makes for one of the league's best bench pieces. Even without a proper shortstop, Any infield that can go 5 deep with steadily above-average big league hitters appears a strength. Here's where it gets more complicated. Since in this fantasy, team free agent plays in the National League, you pretty much lock in J.D. Martinez in right field and deal with his defensive limitations to get his potent bat in the lineup. If he again hits like he did with the Diamondbacks in 2017, he's a plus in an outfield corner even if he's the worst defensive player in history. And he's not that. But team free agents' best bet for the other outfield spots would likely be a rotation of sorts. There are a lot of useful outfielders available, but not a lot of true everyday guys beyond Martinez. Still, with some combination of Carlos Gomez, John Jay, Jared Dyson and Cameron Maybin in center and some combination of Carlos Gonzalez, Melky Cabrera, Andre Ethier, Chris Young and Jason Worth in left, the team could certainly cobble together a mix of outfielders that would be at least meh and maybe even okay. Again, we're counting on full participation here, which means this team is flush with options to fill out its rotation after dueling aces Yu Darvish and Jake Arrieta. Lance Lynn and Alex Cobb make for a very strong middle of the starting staff. Despite underwhelming rate stats, Andrew Cashner saw good results in the Rangers' rotation in 2017. And if any of those guys falters, the club can select from the likes of Jason Vargas, Jaime Garcia, Jeremy Hellickson and Chris Tillman, among countless others, to round out the group. The starting pitching, here, seems a pretty decided strength. Darvish and Arrieta hardly make for the best 1-2 punch in the league, but that's still a combo good enough to front a credible postseason rotation. And if Lynn and Cobb can reprise their strong 2017 seasons, team free agent has one of the deepest starting staffs in baseball. Ron Chinoy, USA Today Sports. Unlike players at every other position, relief pitchers flew off the free agent board early this offseason. That means team free agent doesn't have many very compelling options for bullpen pieces outside of presumptive closer Greg Holland. But Tony Watson can handle the left-handed setup role, and between all the extra starters and still unsigned relievers in camp, it's easy to imagine team free agent identifying the 5 guys throwing best by the end of March and putting together a bullpen that's totally fine, if not especially good. Not bad at all. Team free agent's going to have some defensive issues up the middle, no doubt, but it's got the starting pitching and offense to cover for them some. A lineup built around Martinez, Hosmer and Moustakas and rich with depth and capable hitters would certainly score plenty of runs, and the bullpen, however thin, should be apartment to hold most leads for the strong rotation. By this author's totally unscientific guessing, team free agent is good enough for a wild card run if most things fall right, which is the same tag I'd put on about 1/3 of the league. They wouldn't likely hang with the likes of the Astros, Dodgers, Cubs, Indians or Yankees, but they also wouldn't finish last in any division. Team free agent, if assembled, would certainly make for a reasonable Major League Baseball team, which is rarely so easy to put together. More, Gisele Bundchen posts heartfelt Instagram photo, message to Tom Brady. Kevin Hart issues profane but hilarious statement about his Super Bowl antics. Justin Timberlake selfie kid is the Super Bowl's biggest meme, so far. Update: NFL players react to Malcolm Jenkins' brutal, but legal, hit on Brandon Cooks. Does Carson Wentz get credit for this ring? History says number